Hello nation, and welcome back to the homestead. Well, today we're back out here at Stack with my good buddy Jay, because he's going to help us go over some things as a first-time tractor owner, some maintenance stuff that I need to be doing back on the homestead, so that way my tractor can have a longer life and still be able to do everything that I want it to be able to do.
That's right.
All right, so Jay, I'm in school, teach me.
All right, so the very first thing I'm going to tell you is that a tractor's a day is made up into about 8 hours. So every day or every 8 hours, and it's not exact, but every 8 hours you need to do these things. So it's nothing major, it's nothing, but it's just something that needs to be a routine that you get into, because you can do a lot of damage in 8 hours.
Now you're saying 8 hours. Is that 8 hours off of my hour gauge, or is that 8 hours?
So you've learned the lesson too.
Yeah.
That's what I said. So 8 hours are day. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So it's not anything that has to be at 8 hours. So if you do it at 6 hours or 10 hours, it's not going to be just need to do it on a daily basis, on a regular routine basis. Most people are going to use their tractor this Saturday, won't use it again till next Saturday. So what I do is when I get through, I do my walk-arounds after also. So I do them both ways. So it's not anything set in stone that has to happen like right now. It's just something that needs to happen so that you can be aware of what's going on. And so this is my thing. And if I tear something up this Saturday, it gives me a week to figure out how to fix it so I can use it next Saturday, or get it replaced or whatever I got to do. So and probably the most people think of is the wear points. So when you have, like on the loader here, you got a hydraulic cylinder that's twisting in there, and that's a grease fitting. So you want to make sure that you grease that fitting so that it's not metal on metal and it's grinding off filings, because what'll happen is later on in life it'll get sloppy and it'll make a lot of noise and rattle around, and everything should be snug and tight, but not too tight that it won't twist. But you have an insert grease, we have a reseating grease fitting, which you can't get knocked off as easy, and so you want to use it. So what I recommend, and this gets us in a lot of trouble, because is I use a battery operated grease gun, because sitting there trying to hold it and pump it and all that stuff at the same time is interesting. So that's what I do. So what you do is you're just going to literally put it on here, hold it, 2 to 3 squirts, and that's all you've got to do as far as a grease gun is. The grease fitting is concerned.
Now with y'all's fittings, is there a certain amount of pressure you got to hold it super hard, like put your back into it, or just enough force to just enough? You saw it when I first did it, saw it push the, yeah, I saw it push back.
So you have to put it takes a little force because it is PSI, and then this thing, grease fitting, can get a little dirt piece on the top and stuff, so you might want to get a needle to clean that or something. So, but grease is the #1 thing, but you don't want to put so much grease that you have it coming out, because grease will attract dirt, and dirt and grease become sandpaper.
Okay.
So you want enough to grease it, but not enough to sandpaper it. Okay. So 1 or 2 grease fittings, 1 or 2 squirts of the grease is there. So this is the key then. So people are going to ask, what type of grease? There's just like cars. What type of cars? Yeah, just what type of cars? So I can get a car that's going to get me from A to B, or I can get me a Lamborghini, and I can get A to B in half the time.
How much they paying you here?
I don't have one, I promise you that. But so grease is the same way, and there's a lot of different greases out there, and there's not one that is the best and one that is the worst, but there are some that are definitely better than others. Okay. So you want to make sure that you look at your grease, make sure it has a water resistant to it, because water is one thing that accumulates rust. So that's one thing you want to look at. You want to look at the pressure on the grease. These fittings here don't have any pressure on them, but when you get to the back with PTO, you have pressure on them. So so there's some things that you want to look at. So a middle of the road grease is where you're at mostly.
Okay, so when I went to Tractor Supply to get my grease,
okay,
we looked on the tubes, and some of them had like campers and
right.
push lawnmower and stuff like that. And then there was some that had pictures of tractors and stuff like that. So is it safe to say, as long as it's got that picture on of the tractor on it, it's going to be for the pressure?
Yep.
And okay.
So here we are again, and I'm that person. A picture's worth 1,000 words to me. So when I see something with the picture on it, it instantly tells me, yes, this is good to use for a tractor. Now you can get into some moly greases, and we can go some deep into there all you want to, but when you're looking for just something that's and you're doing this daily, so you just use a little bit of grease and just keeping it greased up and so forth to that. So yes, that's what I'd be looking for, is that.
Okay. Now my other question is when, like with mine on this one right here, this one's a little bit wider than mine, but mine's really tight. Is there a special grease fitting for the gun? To be able to go
you can get angle fittings, you can get all kinds of things, but this is the thing, as quick as it is to take the bucket off, pop the bucket off, and that's what this little section right here is out of it, and pop the bucket off in 5 seconds and put it back on in 5 seconds. So there's that. Yeah, but I mean, so a lot of different, you can get angle grease fittings, you can get high dollar grease guns, you can get, I mean, it's just like a car. And I'm gonna just tell you, the reason why I use a battery one is because trying to hold it and pump it is a very difficult task. Now they're making a lot of connectors that will reach on and hold to it and grab a hold to it and stay locked on where you can pump. Those are nice too. So,
but you would strongly suggest that if you had the manual one, to go ahead and invest in the battery operated one, right?
I did.
Right. Don't make me kick you in the shin, Jay. Work with me here.
And the thing is when these grease guns first come out, they were several, $300, $400, $500. Now you can find a grease gun for $100, $150. And to me, it's a good investment, because on a tractor you are going to use it, and it is going to be a valuable that you don't want this pin to wear out and have to replace the cylinder.
Right.
So, or rebuild the cylinder. So, just as an example of what a lack of grease will do to some of your pins. So just make sure that you are greasing your pins and on a regular basis.
So this pin would be somewhere like in here.
It's actually in the backhoe. It's on the bucket of the backhoe. Yeah, it was on the bucket of the backhoe, and and it was rotating like this.
Ooh.
And so that's why you want to grease every day, every 8 hours. You want to apply grease, and so in a backhoe, it's good to apply the grease and then rotate it so it smooths it out and puts it all over the pin too. So
yeah, I'm glad you said it. I was just fixing to ask you that, because with some of the pieces that rotate, you only got the one pin on the side, and if the grease is coming in there, how's it getting over here? So
that's what I'm saying. So that's why you want to grease it every day. So the grease will slowly, as you do it, will slowly work down the pin and grease the whole pin. Now you got to understand that this is a very tight fit. It's not like it's it's not like it's a very tight fit. So grease and so it just literally just slicks and sticks. Grease is very sticky, very, very sticky.
All right, Jay. So we went over the greasing. You just popped the hood on this bad boy. What are we finna talk about now?
Well, we're gonna talk about some more daily maintenance. Daily maintenance is very important in a tractor, because you're out there and you're trying to do things with it that are gonna push it to its limit. Okay, so you want to make sure that your limit is not pushed.
Not me.
No. And most people get a tractor and think it's a bulldozer, and it's not. But I mean, it is a very powerful piece of equipment. So you want to take care of it, and so that it can breathe. It's just like my daughter Sunday. She come in and she was just sitting down. And I was like, Anna, what's wrong? She said, Daddy, my allergies are killing me. I can't breathe good. So if you can't breathe good, a tractor can't breathe good, then it can't do what it needs to do. So the next thing I want to talk about is being able to breathe. So one thing I like about a Kioti is everything's up front, but an air filter right here is the air filter. It probably needs to be taken out and cleaned monthly.
Okay.
All right. It's not every day, but just monthly. You need to take it out and clean. But there's a radiator screen right here. This radiator screen right here. You need to keep it blowed off daily. And so a lot of people will use a blow gun. So this hooks into an air compressor, and where you can stick in there and you can get behind there and blow it. Or you could take it out. This little wing nut right here comes off, and you can take the screen out and wash it. But you want to be careful about putting water in, because right behind it, if you can see right here, are the coolers for the hydrostatic transmission and the hydraulic oil. So you don't want to clog your radiator up by doing that. So you can take the screen off by twisting a little lug nut, a little wing nut, excuse me. I won't be able to get it out because I just saw the loaders down, but it will. Hold on, I'm sorry. So you can see that it comes off, and you slide it off that one, and then it slides right out, supposedly. So you see it slides out. So with the loader up, so it slides out. But so then that way you can clean this, but this way the tractor can breathe, and that's very important. So one of the key things on a tractor is there's two gauges that we'll talk about at this point in time. One's a fuel gauge, and one's a temperature gauge. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of fuel for the day. Most tractors are designed, a full tank of fuel will run 8 to 10 hours in a tractor, full throttle. So if you fill it up in the day, it should make it through the day, but you want to keep an eye on it. There are instances where it will burn more or less or whatever. But also the temperature gauge. So a temperature gauge, you'll know where your tractor is going to run. Most of them are going to run around 170, 180 degrees in temperature, which is
about the middle.
About in the middle. That's what it's set for. So if you're noticing your gauge is getting over, then you're noticing your tractor's not able to breathe. So check this filter, check this screen first. If this screen is clean, then check the air filter to make sure it can breathe. So that's what we're looking at. So, all right.
Now, this, would it be better to with that stuff behind it, so it'd probably be better to just take it off and blow it off?
Yes.
And
That's what I was saying, is take it off, take this screen off and blow it off. But then you've got this tube here that I was saying that you can actually come in behind here, stick it in behind, and you can blow some stuff through here and screen and so forth to that. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to put water to it when it's hot, because the radiator is hot. You don't want to put water to it. So after it cools down, if you want to do that, but make sure that after you do it, make sure that you blow it out and dry it out, because you don't want that stuff to mat up and turn to mud inside your radiator. Then you've got a bigger problem. But air is the big thing with the tractor. Air is a really big thing. Just like grease is a really big thing, air is a really big thing. Then you heard me say about fuel. Right now is when I want to give a sales pitch out about fuel. Okay. A new tractor does not like water at all in their fuel. And people are like, water? But fuel condensates in a tank on the back of the tractor as well as in the ground. So it does do water. So you want to make sure that you have a reputable fuel supply, somewhere that services and sells a lot of fuel to buy that. So what I do with my tractors is I never fill my tractors up unless I'm going to use them all day. So for me, I'll use it a couple, 2 or 3, 4 hours. So I'll put 3 or 4, 5 gallons of fuel in it. And then I'll put 3 or 4, 5. So I'm always putting fresh fuel in. But fuel is a biggie, and water is another biggie. So this tractor here has a computer on it because it is a 35 horsepower. So it has a Regen filter. We'll talk about that next. But it also has a computer on it that's regulating the fuel. And so if you'll look right here, here's the fuel filter. And then you'll see down below it that it's got fuel in it. Now there is a dyed fuel, which is an ag fuel, and then there's a non-dyed fuel, which is on-road fuel. The difference is the taxes. So the South Carolina tax is collecting tax on road fuel because that's running on the road. So a tractor can run either one of the two fuels is fine, just from a reputable place. So I look for a place that sells a lot of diesel fuel. So if I see a bunch of log trucks or 18-wheelers or tractors or whatever, that's where I'm gonna buy my fuel at. Somewhere that's just going through it and it's not condensating as much in the tank. So that's what I'm trying to do. So
if you don't have a place like that you feel comfortable with, is there any type of, you know, how they have the fuel injector cleaners and stuff for cars? Is there something like that we can put in?
There's all kind of fuel additives that you can put in there, and that's not a problem either. Just need to make sure you read the instructions and follow them, because a lot of them are 1 ounce per 100 gallons. You know, so it's not like the whole can.
The whole can.
So, and it's not like most people think that, you know, if 1 ounce is good, 2 ounces is better, 3 ounces is great, 4 ounces is awesome, 5, you know, whole can, wow, you know, and that's not the way it is. You're just wasting money. So, but you need to read it and follow the instructions on it and use it. But the key to the fuel is to use your tractor. the more you use your tractor, the less condensation takes place in the fuel. So as long as you're using your tractor, you're okay. So, i.e. in the wintertime, most people aren't getting out in the 20-degree weather and riding around their tractor. But ideally, you should get on your tractor and ride it around in the winter, just so the fuel,
just to keep everything,
everything lubed, everything fresh, everything going, and that's what it is. So, but if you'll notice, this filter right here, this tractor here has a fuel separator, a water separator on the bottom of it. So you can literally twist this little knob right here, and then it will allow fuel to run, the water to run out, because water will separate from diesel fuel. Okay. And so you can drain the water out. The problem is once you do that about once or twice, the filter also is going to need to be replaced because it's separating fuel inside the filter too. And so so just the key right there. But it will, this tractor here will regulate it. It will come up with a, I think it's R14 code. It could pop up and you'll say, it's either R4 or R14, but a code will pop up and it tells you water into fuel. And so that's what you'll need to do. So but fuel is probably the big thing. So air, fuel, and grease are the biggies.
All right, so we talked about the screen and your air filter, but you're not wanting to move, Jay. So what else are we going to talk about here?
The next thing is the fan. So the behind the radiator is the fan. The fan is pulling air through the radiator to cool the fluids that are running around it, cool the water that's going through the engine, cool the oil that's going through the hydraulics and the hydrostatic transmission. So that's what it's doing. So you want to make sure that your fan is turning at the RPMs that it needs to be turning. So what'll happen is most of the time on a new piece of equipment, as most of us do, things stretch. Or in the cold weather, things tighten up. Or in the summertime, they loosen up. So when you start hearing that little bit of a noise up front, and you're like, what is that squealing noise? Check your fan belt. Because you will notice that it will loosen up or tighten up on you as you do that. But that fan has got to be pulling that air through to make it breathe. So we want to make sure that we tighten it. And most fans today, unfortunately, are plastic. So you want to make sure that the shroud around it is free of the fan, because it doesn't take but one little nick and you don't have a fan blade anymore, or you don't have fan blades anymore. So make sure you do that. So but just listen to your tractor when you crank it up. Make sure the fan's turning, pulling the air that needs to pull to keep everything cool and collect.
Now I took a quick look back here, Jay, and it doesn't seem like that there is one of those tensioners on it. So it's just like back in the back 70s hot rod, where you're using the alternator.
Right, alternator as a bracket.
Tension.
Yes, sir. On the smaller ones, it probably is that way because there's not a lot of tension on that belt. When you get to the bigger tractors and they pull in 80, 100 horsepower, you'll see a tensioner on there and you'll be able to ratchet it down because it is pulling a bigger fan and all that stuff. So yes, sir. But just like the old days, you're just going to loosen this little bolt up right here, pull the alternator down so it tightens up the fan. And so
now, how tight do I want it? Do I want it, when I push down on this, do I want a little play?
Yes, you got to have a little play. You can't have it, it won't ever be, it's got to have a little play to it, yes.
Okay. All right, Jay, just like, you know, I'm always on Robin, always. Every other tank, check the oil, stuff like that. So I assume I had to check the oil, the engine oil on my tractor regularly also.
Yes.
But also hydraulic oil, do I have to check that as well?
So anytime you have a vehicle, it's important to know what's inside the vehicle. Like you said, the oil in the engine and then hydraulic oil. So yes, you need to check it. Do you need to check it every day? No, but you do need to check it weekly, monthly, but periodically you need to check it just to make sure that everything is there. If you're on a maintenance of every 50 or 100 hours changing stuff, that's another check. So, and that's why I like to bring, I'm old school, I change my own oil, used to. Now I'm getting older, it's easier to bring it to somewhere and have it changed, and that way another set of eyes is walking around my tractor looking, hey, this is loose, or hey, I noticed this is, you know, and I know that a lot of it might be trying to upsell you some, but it is a legitimate thing that you can look at. But walking around it, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but checking the oil is probably one of the things that you do need to make sure you get it in a routine of. Most people don't check it oil in their car, they don't do that, but a tractor. So it's so simple. You just pull out the dipstick And if you'll notice, I got a cloth. This oil is so new that you can't see it, but as soon as I touch it to the cloth, you'll see that it came all the way up. And there's the full notch, and there's the empty notch. Okay, so you'll notice it came all the way up to full. And that's why I carry a top, because it's brand new oil. This tractor has no hours on it. So this oil is as clean as it's ever going to be.
Ever gonna be.
From this point on, you're going to pull it out and it's going to look like, yeah. But I mean, but it is, that's a diesel engine. All right, so if it needs to add oil, there's an oil fill cap on top. It needs to add oil, and it is all behind everything, so it's a little bit difficult, but you see it right there. A lot of tractors have it out front, and I don't know why, but there it is right there. Maybe you can see it. So if I do it, so that's where you'd add the oil out.
That's for that flexi nozzle.
That's right. That's exactly right. So now, while we're here, and to make it simple, we're going to talk about the front axle, because 90% of all tractors today are four-wheel drive.
Okay.
And the four-wheel drive is independent oil from the rest of the tractor, from the engine and the transmission, and the hydraulic oil. So it is right here on this one here. And you'll see it has a little dipstick, and as I touch it down, you'll see how it's so clean. I mean, it's just so clean.
Now, is that the same? Okay, you're really teaching me something new here. You're kind of catching me off guard. I had no idea about this. Is this the same type? Is it just like 10W30?
No.
Is it special?
So yeah. So the tractor will take a different kind of oil. It's in the oil owner's manual. There are several oil brands that they will list everything, and they will list the ranges of what it needs to be in. Lows and highs, 10W30. A lot of people 1540 is some terms that they'll hear. But this right here is a gear oil, because everything in here is a gear. Okay. So it's got bearings that are turning, and that's what it's in there holding this. So this is a gear oil up front, engine oil in the engine, and hydraulic oil or transmission oil in the transmission. So it's three kind of oils in a tractor. I reckon the last thing I'd like to tell you is that is to just do a walk around your tractor.
Okay.
When I say that, I'm looking for dirt that's in a place that don't need to be. I'm looking for a stick that might be in a place that doesn't need to be. I'm looking for something that I haven't noticed. We have talked a little bit about lug nuts in the past, but I'm looking at my lug nuts to make sure that they're tight and they're not wobbled out. I'm looking at my loader bolts to make sure that they're tight and they're not wobbled out. So I'm just trying to look at things. I'm looking at my seat. I'm looking at my 3-point hitch linkages underneath me. I'm just sort of trying to do a quick walk around and make sure everything's sort of clean and where it ought to be.
Okay, so when you say where dirt's not supposed to be, where would that be?
Well, so you start looking at things like your alternator, because your alternator has fans on it. You start looking at your radiator. You start looking like in places where there's a gap right here between your front end and your back end, to make sure that you haven't run into a mud puddle and then there's dirt up there and it won't allow it to flex. Or in the
pressure washer.
Yes, and I know people laugh at me when I say that, but when we bring a tractor to the shop, we wash it before we work on it, and we wash it before we send it home after we worked on it. You got to understand that this tractor is going to do exactly what the nut behind the stern wheel told it to do.
What you trying to say?
I'm trying to say is that it's going to do exactly what you told it to do. So it doesn't think on its own. It doesn't, even though it has a computer, it doesn't think on its own. So you tell it to do it, it's going to try to do it. The last thing I want to share with you as far as is first-time customers. When you're doing something with this tractor, let's say you're a front-end loader and you want to load up a load of mulch, or a load of gravel, or a load of dirt in the front-end loader, or stump, or whatever. When your tires spin, when they lose traction, your tractor is done. I don't care if it's 1 horsepower or 1,000,000 horsepower. When the tires spin, it's done. That's why we like to load the back tires with water and antifreeze to make it as heavy as you can. That's why you like a tractor that's made out of metal, not have plastic on it. That's why you want a tractor as heavy as it can, so that it can be on the ground, as much ground contact. So once that happens, you got to move your front end loader. You got to adjust your 3-point hitch. You got to do something so that your tires don't spin, so that you continue going forward. The best advice I can give a first-time buyer is to get on the tractor and say, what does this do? You're not going to tear it up, most likely, but most likely you are going to figure out, hey, this is what this does, this is what Jay said, this is what the dealer said, this is, and you're going to figure it out, and it's going to be your best friend.
Now you know that I am so going to say anytime she starts fussing, Jay said to get on the tractor and figure out what it's going to do. That's all I'm doing.
And I understand that. So, but you got to remember the nut behind the steering wheel. So you do have to have some common sense.
You have to give her that ammunition.
But I'm going to tell you, a tractor is a wonderful tool. It is better than a wheelbarrow any day of the week. It's better than a sling blade any day of the week. So, but the object is that you want this tractor to last you for 50 years.
At least.
Plus. So that's what you want. So you've got to take care of it so it will take care of you.
One last question, Jay. Like on cars, we have, this is what we used to call back in the day. We used to call it idiot lights. So it would pop on and tell you when, you know, it needed oil, or if it was running too hot or anything like that. Does my tractor have idiot lights on it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And that's what the biggest concern with people is the Regen light. And we basically talked a little bit about this, but this tractor, anything above 25 horsepower, has the regen facilities, regen capacity on it, to where it will not roll black smoke. So it's collecting all the unburned fuel particles, so it will not roll out black smoke. So when that light comes on and people see a red light on the dash, they instantly think, I've done something wrong, and they turn the tractor off. Not worst thing, that's a bad thing to do, because once it does that 3 times, it goes into what they call limp mode, and then we have to reprogram the computer to get it out of limp mode. So look at your dash, and I keep referring to your owner's manual. All the lights are in there, owner's manuals, and so you need to know
throw it away.
I understand. So when it does happen, get off your tractor, go inside, get the owner's manual out, and say, oh, that's what that is. That's water in my fuel. Oh, that's what that is. That's low oil. Oh, that's what that is. That's the regen. Oh, that's what that is. So that you'll know. And once you've done it once or twice, you got it. I mean, it's not like it's every time it's spitting out something different. It's only got so many things.
So many lights. Well, the one thing, you know, dealing with you, Jay, you were very thorough when we went over to tractor when you were selling us the tractor, and you talked to me very, very in-depthly about the regen light. So when it happened the first time, I knew what it was.
Right.
But one of the things that I did learn is that you got to make sure the tractor's good and warm for when you hit that button for it to work, or it'll just do a little bit and then it'll kick back on a little bit later.
That's right. So, and I know this is going to sound how do I say it? Sound bad, but with the new diesel engines, they are designed to run hotter, not hot, hotter. So you want to run them at higher RPMs and keep the RPMs up there and keep the engine warm, so that everything is inside lubricated, it's warm, it's stretched out, it's lubricated, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so when that regen light comes on, it's just to mash the button, hold it down 3, 4, 5 seconds, let go of it, the tractor does everything for you, and there's no big deal. The new tractors are not designed to put to the mailbox and get mail. They're designed to run to the mailbox and get mail.
That's it. Now, since we're talking about that, first thing in the morning, come out there, we start it up. I let it idle for 2-3 minutes, and then I'll pump it up to where it's running about 10 to 15.
Yep.
And then I let it idle there for a few minutes, and then I go all the way up to the 2, let it idle there for a few minutes, and then I go. Is that overkill, or is that taking really good care of my tractor?
It's taking really good care of your tractor. Overkill, I wouldn't say. It's taking good care of your tractor, because you're giving the oils time to circulate before you rev it up to full strength. Theoretically, you don't have to do that. Theoretically, because once you crank it up, the oil should be in place. It should be slicked from the day before use. Everything should be good. But anytime you take precautions like that, just means that your motor and your transmission is going to last longer.
Yeah. That just comes from that old school, you know, having a mechanic in the house. You got to let everything warm up. You got to let all of the fluids get the flow on before you can expect it to go. So it's just been just one of those ingrained habits that I had. So I was just wondering with the new stuff if that was really still required, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Required, no, but common sense, yes.
Okay, now you said something about some gauges. Did we cover those?
The 2 gauges that you'll see on the tractor is going to be a fuel gauge and a temperature gauge. and then of course the tachometer in the middle. And we talked about that. That tachometer is on engine hours, not time hours. So if you're running at 2,200 RPMs for an hour, it will click an hour. If you're running at 1,000 RPMs for an hour, it only clicks a half an hour.
Now, what's the ideal range for me to be running my tack that'll help me make my tractor live longer and cause me less headaches down the road?
Above 2,000 RPMs.
Above 2,000.
All the time. When you're working it, above 2,000 RPMs all the time. If you're gonna be digging that stump, 2,200 RPMs. I mean, because that means your tractor is moving the oil, doing everything it's supposed to do at its optimum.
Okay, so I really haven't been running it high enough. I've been hugging right there at 2.
Yeah, 2, 22, and you'll notice a tractor will. Here we go. I've said this a couple times too, and I'll say it again. The tractor's going to let you know what it can and can't do. Just like when the tire spins, it can't go no further. Or when it can't pick something up, it's going to whine at you. It's going to pick the front end up, or it's going to pick the back tire off. It's going to do something that's going to cause you to say, I can't. It won't do that. So you got to get another grip at it. So by increasing your RPMs a couple of hundred RPMs, it doesn't sound like much, but it really is a game changer.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
Was there a maximum I shouldn't go over?
Yeah.
Because I know, like on mine, see, it's got that.
I wish you wouldn't ask these questions, but anyway. So just truthfully, and just to answer your question, there's 2 things on a tractor. There's full throttle, and there's wide open. You don't want to run a tractor wide open.
Okay.
I mean, and if you've ever done this before, you can push your tractor to full throttle, which is about 2,200 RPMs, but there's always that little bit more, and you can push it and hammer it. Now, if I was just going to do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes, okay, but I would never want to run my tractor all day with it just hammered. Hammered.
So the sweet spot's between like 2,000 and 25, 23?
23, yeah, that's the sweet spot. It's going to be a sweet spot. And most of them are gauged on here. You'll see this tractor here has temperature, PTO gauges, PTO lights on it that lets you know where are some ranges that you can run at, the little yellow PTOs. And if you're running right in there, you're good. You're good to go. You're good.
So they made it marine proof. They put little stickers.
Yeah, they made it proof. But so the I'm gonna stop. On a tractor, my thing is to make sure that you just walk around, look at it. You can tell if something's wrong. I mean, literally.
Yeah. Preventative maintenance is just that. It helps prevent some things.
Not everything.
But not everything.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Jay, I really appreciate you taking the time with me again today. You taught me a lot of stuff today. I'm so glad we're filming it, because now I'm able to go back and watch my own video and talk about, okay, I need to go do this, need to go do that, because some of the stuff, like the oil up there, I would have never known about.
Most people.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't read the owner's manual. I put it off to the side.
I understand.
Most guys are like that.
Yes, sir.
So
I am.
So you taught me a lot today, and you probably taught a lot of folks a lot of stuff today, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time, hanging out with us, going over this with us. Michonne appreciates you doing that, because I would be able to take better care of her in the long run.
You've named her?
Oh,
yeah, that's good. That's good. That's
I
good.
named her.
That's right. I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
you got to name all your favorite equipment.
I understand. I tell you, you gotta have fun in life too, don't you?
Yes.
It's not any good if you can't have fun. And that's what I tell everybody. I like having fun, so I like having fun. So that's great.
Yeah. And it's this piece of equipment that you invest in becomes a very vital part of your phone or your homestead or your construction company or whatever you're doing.
Right.
So you're gonna want to be able to take the absolute best care of it, because you need it on those. It needs to be there and be able to be full functional at those times when you're not expecting to need it, like when a bad storm comes through and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You can't be dilly-dallying it. So that's what preventative maintenance helps do.
I agree.
So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you have a tractor, I hope this gave you some things to go and look at on your tractor. That way you can keep your tractor running in tip-top shape. If you guys are looking for a tractor, hey, don't forget, call Jay down here at Steck. You ain't got nothing else to do. Just call him and ask him if he's wearing a ball cap or something today. Just call him.
Come by and have a cup of coffee.
There you go. Because he never runs out of anything to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it helps. Thanks for coming by the Big Bear Homestead. God bless, and have a nice day.